All right, in the absence of the president of council, I'd like to call the regular or the committee of the whole to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And at this time, I'd ask if there's any nominations for President Pro Tem.
Mayor?
Mr. Wallenczak.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to nominate Councilman Reeves to be president of council for this evening.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, are there any objections? Hearing none, Mr. Reeves, the chair is yours.
Hit the gavel.
Hit the gavel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
What's that? No attendance, but see, but let the records reflect that. How many council people are here? How many council people are here?
Let the record reflect that we have 5 council people here tonight. We are missing 2. There is no need to for them to be here. There's no attendance taken. So at this time, we have items to discuss, and item 54 of 2023 is presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman.
Go to Ms. Rowe.
We're going to go to Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance is needed to raise water rates in order to keep up with operating expenses for the water treatment plant and our water distribution system. We just had our Water and Sewer Committee meeting an hour before this meeting, and to certainly go over a lot of which is in our exhibit to this ordinance, which is a water and sewer rate evaluation. But in short, the increasing in rates is really to cover inflation costs for our water operations. As mentioned in the meeting, our chemical costs have almost doubled over the last 3 years, close to $673,000 per year. And our water distribution supply increases have increased by 40 to 60% as well. Probably the best way to explain these increases, if you turn to the exhibit, page 5 of the memo, there's the water and sewer recommendations. That's what this ordinance changes have been based on. Our current water base rate is $19.35 per 1,000 cubic feet. We are asking to increase that by $1.55 in '24, and then $1.05 in 2025, $1.10 in '26, and $1.15 in '27. The effect on our customers, the minimum bill in '24 will go up by $9.28 per year. Per month, that's 77 cents. And in '25, it'll go up by another $6.32 per year. '26, it'll go up another $6.60 per year. And in year '27, it'll go up by $6.88. Average is is really double those numbers. Our minimum water bill is based on 1,500 cubic feet. The national average for water is right around 3,100 cubic feet per quarter. Beyond that, the Exhibit A does include all of the evaluation. It includes a rate comparison with 14 other utilities in Northwest Ohio. Even with these rate increases, we are still the lowest out of those 14 other utilities in Northwest Ohio. I'd like to say we're the lowest in Ohio. Can't prove that, but I do know we're the lowest in our area. Beyond that, I do know the city of Findlay had gone to increases just 2 weeks ago. They were our direct competitor on that rate comparison. So it does make me feel, or at least supports, that we do need to make these increases. just for operating expenses. And in our committee meeting, it was mentioned that if those increases aren't enough, it can be certainly increased in the future. We are to evaluate these rates as a minimum per the EPA every 3 years. But even at the time we do budget every year, it's important to look at our revenues and expenses and make sure that we're being fiscally responsible. So, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, what's your, any questions? Hearing none, what's your pleasure on the item 154 of 2023?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Paulus.
I move to place item 154, 2023 to next week's council agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Paulus.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Any objections? Hearing none, will be moved to next week's regular meeting agenda. Up next is item 155, and that's presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Police Chief Brandon Began. We'll go right to Mr. Began.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. President. We are seeking approval for the purchase of 4 model year 2025 Ford Explorer police interceptors from Bauman Ford in Oregon. We put this out to bid and emailed the bid to several vendors, but Bauman Ford was the only dealership that submitted a bid. We compared Bauman's bid with the state contract pricing through Chapman Ford, which is in Marysville, Ohio. Chapman Ford pricing for the 4 vehicles was $197,552. Bauman Ford's was a little more at $207,234.08. Additionally, we had 9 vehicles that will be ending their service life with our agency and will be eligible for trade-in. Bauman Ford offered $28,750 for the trade-ins, while Chapman Ford offered $24,500 for the trade-ins. The total, including trade-in credits, would equate to a total bid of $178,484.08 for Bauman Ford and $173,052 for Chapman Ford. The Bauman bid is $5,432.08 more than the Chapman Ford bid. But looking at the overall bids and the logistics of getting the vehicles down there, our trade-in vehicles down there, which we have 9 of those. One of those vehicles is inoperable at this time because it has an exhaust leak that goes into the vehicle. So we would have to have a long-distance tow for that vehicle, and we'd also have to coordinate having 9 officers take the 8 cars down there and get driven back, or possibly 10 officers for that. And then when the vehicles come in, we would have the same issue where we'd have to go down there and pick them up. And it's 112 miles from our station to that dealership. So we believe that with the extra cost and staffing, that paying a little bit more and having the local dealership was the best bid out of the 2 bids that we have. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Chief. Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
quick question, Chief Biggin, on this, in, looking at what we got here, it's a 25 Ford Interceptors. We had talked some time ago about the length of time it's taking to get vehicles. This is kind of planning into that, correct? That these are longer to get than what they need to be, so we need to start looking now to actually get them by the time that the useful life of the existing vehicles is over, correct?
Correct. They did, over the last couple of years, it's changed a couple of times with how we purchase vehicles. A couple of years ago, we would purchase them at the beginning of the year. We'd get those vehicles by the end of the year. They then changed it where you had to purchase the vehicles that year and receive them the next year. This time around, Ford is only doing a short 2024 year run for those people who did, or for those agencies who have not placed a 2023 order, or their 2023 order was not fulfilled. So they'll do a short time frame of 2024, and then in early or mid 2024, they'll move over to the 2025 models. So we expect that we would get them probably closer towards the end of next year, early in 2025, compared to having to wait another full year for them.
Thank you, Chief. Just on a side note, Terry's retired if you need somebody to take those cars down there.
Definitely.
I thought the one with the exhaust, it'd be
Yeah.
a sleepy ride, but, thank you.
I'm good at staying awake. Council, any other questions? Hearing none, I looking for, item 155 to be placed on next week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Paula.
so moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Any objections? That'll be moved to next week's, 155 will be the next week's, regular council meeting. Item 156 is also presented by Michael J. Safarian, the mayor, and Police Chief Brandon Began. We'll go to Chief Began.
Thank you, Mayor and Mr. President. This is in relation to the previous ordinance as well. Once we have those new vehicles in, we'll need 4 new mobile data computers, or MDTs. These are the computers that sit in the front of the car that we can pull up our calls for service and mapping and pretty much everything we do in the vehicle. So we would need 4 new MDTs to be installed in those vehicles.
Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions? Hearing none, I'll seek a motion to move item 156 of 2023 to next week's regular council meeting.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Paula.
so moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Any objections? Hearing none, item 156 will be moved to next week's regular council meeting agenda. And we'll go on to item 157 of 2023. That's presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Chief Began. And we'll go to Chief Began.
Thank you, Mayor and Mr. President. This ordinance is similar. This would be for the purchase of in-car camera systems for the 4 new vehicles that we are seeking. This one has an additional in-car camera system for the 2024 Ford F-150 that we already came to council for on that vehicle. So it would be 5 in-car camera systems totaling $44,576.
Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions for Chief Began?
Mr.
Here-
President,
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Drake.
thank you. Chief Began, is this the cameras, like when they pull somebody over, that beam from like the dash, or is it like inside the vehicle?
yeah, so we have cameras both. We have camera inside the backseat compartment area where we would have people back there, and also the front car camera system. And I also did want to mention, I forgot to mention that the initial ordinance that we put out was for an appropriation of the funds for these. That was incorrect. We provided the new one. I just wanted to notate that it was there's already funding for it this year. It wasn't a new appropriation.
Correct. Mr. Drake?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Any other questions, council? Hearing none, I seek a motion to move item 157 of 2023 to next week's council meeting.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Paula.
so moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Any objections? Hearing none, item 157 will be moved to next week's regular council meeting. Item 158 is also presented by the mayor and Chief Began, and we'll go right to Chief Began.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. President. This would be for the vehicle equipment for the changeovers for the new vehicles and installation of everything that we would need, including the cages, light bars, everything necessary to have the vehicle fully functioning.
Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions for Chief Began? Hearing none, I'll seek a motion to move item 158 of 2023 to next week's regular council meeting.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Paula.
so moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Any objections? Hearing none, I see, next item 158 of 2023 will be moved to next week's regular council meeting. Our last item is 159 of 2023, presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Finance Director Nick Roman. Will go to the mayor.
I'll start this and then we'll go to Mr. Roman, but this is just to fulfill a contractual obligation that we have with all the employees, and Nick Roman can speak to the,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the renewal for our standard life insurance. It has been the same rate since we went with them in 2002. They actually initially came back with a slight increase, and I questioned it and mentioned how we've had the same cost since 2002, and they had us send over our employees and ages, and they were actually able to get it back down to the same rate. So it's the same rate locked in through the end of 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Roman.
we need to get you to negotiate some other deals.
I try my best.
Council, any questions for Mr. Roman? Hearing none, I seek a motion to forward item 159 of 2023 to next week's regular meeting.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Pauloff.
so moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Any objections? Hearing none, item 159 of 2023 will be on next week's regular council meeting. That's all of our items for tonight. And I will move to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't really have anything to report other than to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mr. Major.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Pepora.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Roman.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Drake.
No report from my committee. I just wanted to mention, I went last week, Joel Major was also there to the TARDA summer they had downtown. And we were told TARDA's going to start January 7th. I believe it's on a Sunday. So just thought I'd throw that out.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Wallenczak.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. I have nothing from my standing committee, but starting next Monday, November 27th, I'm going to start our budget process as the chairman of the finance committee. 6:30, Joel, is that what you'd like, or do you just need an hour before the meeting? 5:30 you'd like to start? Okay, so we would, next Monday, November 27th at 5:30, we'll start the budget process. Mr. Mazur will do an overview of the budget, projected budget for us, and then we'll meet consecutively on the Mondays following that initial meeting. And I'll set those meetings on a weekly basis then.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak. Do we know which ones we're going to start with first?
It's going to be the overview first.
Just the overview?
Are you going to have something, and parks? And parks.
Parks and Recreation? Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pauloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing from my standing committee, but the committee, the wastewater and water committee held its committee meeting today. And I'd really like to thank Paul Roman for all his work that he has done since I've been here. Everything that he's gone through with the budget and making sure that the citizens get the best rates possible and we get the best product possible. So I want to thank him for all his work. And that's it for my report, other than wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff. Mr. Horniak.
No, just echo the sentiments. Hopefully everybody has a happy Thanksgiving, safe travel to those who will be out on the roads. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I have nothing from my standing committee, but I would like to wish everyone happy Thanksgiving, and there's some good football on this weekend, so make sure you stay up and watch it. So, yeah, and Notre Dame Stanford is at 7 o'clock. on the Pac-12 channel. I just had to put that on cable because we didn't have it. Nothing further. There's nobody signed in to speak, so I seek a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Paulus.
so moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Drake. The meeting is adjourned.